Hi, beautiful ones. My intention with the Shamangelic Healing podcast is to be a platform that explores real-life issues and provides you with valuable insights and practical tools to support you on your journey of healing core wounds and reclaiming your power and manifesting a thriving, impactful life that you absolutely love. You see, it's my dream to inspire millions to shine. So if you find these topics valuable, please take a moment and share the podcast and leave us a rave review. This helps the podcast grow and reach the people that would greatly benefit from these insights. Thank you so much for tuning in and investing in your personal development. I'm right here walking this journey with you. So let's dive into this episode. Welcome to this episode of the Shamangelic Healing podcast. Oh, one of my fave people on the planet, Tommy Baker, here today. And he's from the Resist Average Academy. We've known each other for many, many years. And I'm just so grateful. Tommy lives down near Phoenix in Scottsdale. And there has been a kindredship since you came up here to Sedona with Taylor, your wife now, like almost 5 years ago, I think it was. And what we're going to dive into today, there was just a kindredship, first of all, right away, super deep, super soul brother.
Yes.
And what we're going to dive in today is this challenge between hustling, go, force, like, really yang, go, do energy, and like yin and seeking and meditation and manifestation and rest and attraction and more of that kind of yin energy, and like finding the flow between those and where both can be a medicine if you spend too long, or a poison if you spend too long, or if you don't have the right alchemy. It can be real treacherous, or it can be great success. And one of the things I love about you, Tommy, first of all, you're an author and you've written a book on this called Hustlers and Seekers, and it's coming out super soon, and I'm so excited about it. But you've also written the 1% Rule, hello, and my fave, The Leap of Your Life. And I love listening to this while I'm hiking, and like your first one on resolution, and now Hustlers and Seekers coming out. And Tommy, you walk it. You're a coach. You are a mentor. You give, you're a podcaster. I've been on your podcast. You've been on my podcast before. And I think on this topic of hustling and seeking, like, you know the pitfalls. I know know the pitfalls.
Big time.
We've been there for each other when there's been phenomenal like balance and a total shit show of pain and things crumbling. So welcome, brother. I'm so grateful to have you on the show.
Deep appreciation. Thank you so much. Always humbled and honored to be with you. As you know, I consider you a huge spiritual mentor of mine. And by the way, and you're someone who, lives the ethos of hustling and seeking, because you're someone who's able to really tap into both energies in a really powerful way. And it's like, when I was writing this book, I thought of people like you who are able to really seamlessly go between both worlds, to uncover a sweet spot. And I know it's not always seamless, but in the micro, in your day-to-day, but also in the macro of life. And so anyways, just honored to be here as always. Thank you so much.
Yes. Well, you and I, total transparency of being safe. We've both been really safe to have our challenges and be held and supported by each other.
Sure.
We've come here many times, and it's been an honor to support you. And you've been a coach and a mentor for me with your programs and your podcast and your books. And there is a desire. There's a desire to seek the harmony there and to remedy the imbalances, because both of us have, and I'm sure many listening and watching have felt the pitfalls of go go do to an extent in which where it's been harming and damaging. And
Yes.
both sides, the hustling and the seeking, the being and the doing, have their benefits, and they also have their downside. And so what have you, with your clients and with you personally, what's the dark side, the shadow side of hustling and doing?
Ooh, I love that. Yeah. So the dark side is that so I identified really 8 specific dark sides, but I'll just tell you a few because they'll resonate with somebody listening, and I'm sure they'll resonate with you. That if you just, and we see this all the time, right? It's people who achieve and achieve and achieve, but they can't spend time with their achievements, or they're achieving based on past trauma of being bullied in high school, or coming out of some type of divorce, or just some pain from the past. And it really works well to fuel achievement. I mean, you cannot look at somebody like Michael Jordan and not see that there's something in there with his father. And I'm not going to psychoanalyze him, but there's something there that drove him to a level of excellence that became obsessive. So much so that on the most special night of his life, when he was inducted into the Hall of Fame, instead of it being a celebration of his life and his career with all of his people, high school coaches and friends and teammates, he got up there and just started ripping everybody. And it wasn't like a joking ripping. It was like, F you, F you, you cut me, all of that stuff. So that's an example to me, and that's not how I define success. Like achievement is amazing, but not at the expense of our personal peace. So what are some of the dark sides of seeking, of hustling off the bat? One is that it's never enough. That if you only operate in the hustle mentality, it's like you get there to some goalpost, and the next thing is, let me move the goalpost back. In fact, you'll appreciate this. I was on a podcast on the Academy, and my guest, she said, Tommy, every single time I achieve a goal, before I can even take a second, I just move the goalpost right back. And I thought to myself, and in the book, because I talk about it in the book, I say face palm, because that to me, it's like, that's the last thing. And I understand the mentality. I get that. She's talking about not being complacent. But what I felt there was an inability to be with the wins. So I'm just going to share 3 dark sides. It's never enough. 2, fulfillment escapes you. So if you're hinging your ability to achieve that it's going to fulfill you, and when I say fulfillment, it's going to create levels of peace, emotional freedom, and all of this stuff and meaning and stuff like that, you're in for a really bad surprise, because you'll get there and realize, no, not all of these things actually created the internal peace. And then another one is success feels unlike you. So you arrive, if your whole life is based on a model of doing, and when I get there, it means that in the present moment, you're not completely whole and integrated, which means that your autopilot mechanism is out of lack. You're operating out of lack. And so when you get the goal, you think to yourself, oh, that's going to fix it. That's going to fix all of that lack. But it's not, because you don't know how to feel successful. It's the classic case that we've heard so many times that it's become a cliche. The person hits $1 million in their bank account and has the most depressive night of their life. Why? Because they never practice what it's like to be successful, to be whole, to be integrated. So anyways, I gave you a lot, but I just want to start out with 3 big ones, which are really, really common. And I think somebody listening, we could all resonate to this hustle, ambitious mentality, whether that's getting certifications, graduate school, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, even as parents. Like, this happens as parents. There was an admission scandal last couple of years ago. I don't know if you saw this, but it was parents who were very privileged, who were cheating their way into getting their kids at school. So vicariously helping their children cheat on something for them to feel better about themselves, and then also their children to feel better about themselves. And like, that's the dark side of hustling, that you can do things that are not only unethical, but destroy your physicality, destroy your emotionality, destroy your connections, all of the things that are so amazing about life.
I love that you've identified these because I can relate to every single one. And I pay
Me too, by the
like,
way.
like, no, and the first one I really want to like break down a little bit is that, um, not like when you arrive, not being able to celebrate the victory.
Yeah.
I've been like, yep, done. Event's over. Big thing happened. Arrived, and then it's like there's such familiarity in the doing. There's such
Yeah.
uh, habituating into the doing that arriving, it's like, well, now what? And
Exactly.
what I don't know how to slow down. And I've been in this way so many times. I don't know how, if anyone else can relate to hustle, 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 hustle. Okay, now you're on vacation, and it's like takes you the whole week to unwind,
Yeah.
and then you've got to go back, and like the last 3 days you're thinking about going back to work or whatever, and not
Sure.
being able to relax, not being able to unplug, not being able to celebrate, and being hardwired in to the identity and the
Yes.
habit of the doing. And so don't know how to celebrate and don't know how to stop or like take a breath. And I recognize that my attachment or my center point, Tommy, and it's still the case, is way more into the doing, way,
Mm.
way, way more into the doing than into the being. It's still awkward. Um, and that can come from different places, whether it was judged as being lazy if you were
Sure.
resting, so we got to look back to
Yeah.
what is the programming there? Or if you were rewarded for always doing the doing, it can happen both sides. Or if you're rewarded for success, then or always compared to somebody else, like the motivation that you talked about of wanting to please a parent or something like that. And I call it kind of like not clean motivation, that it's not really clean.
Sure.
It's coming from the overcompensator. It's coming from I'll show you. It's coming from
Yes.
I've got to get their attention. I'm not enough. It's coming from lack, and I have to hustle to show my coach or to impress somebody else that I'm enough, or to prove to myself that I'm enough. And if it's always coming from outside, then it will never be enough, because there will always be at least one person in your life that says you didn't do enough. And it's like, okay. And they're like, oh, what's next? And what's next? And you're like, I haven't exhaled. And if I have to be thinking about what's next, there's a lot of social programming that is reinforcing go, 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 do, 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 be the best, and don't rest.
Yes. 100%. And you said the right word, which is identity, which because when we tie our identity to these states, and that's what they are, they're states, which means they're not permanent. We're not designed
Mm.
to be, and you've taught me this, I mean, many times with all of your examples of nature, it's like we're not designed to always be in that state or in that season. Um, and when we do that, though, like you said, we habituate and it becomes our autopilot. And so that's why if your identity is always doing, the moment that there's not doing, there's almost like a black hole of space where you don't know where you are and where you fit into the world. It's why athletes who retire get depressed. It's why
Yes.
people have midlife crisis. Like it's very obvious because they don't know what to do with that empty space. And so they will just fill it with distraction and sedation and avoidance.
I've never
Um,
done that, Tommy. I don't know.
Me neither. Me neither. Yeah.
like, can you relate? Like, I just want to pause for that for a second, of just that in that vacuum, we
Yes.
don't know what to do. And I think that that's why you're absolutely there. There's so much depression and numbness and distraction and sedation, because frankly, we're bored if there isn't something to do. And if we're not filling every minute of the day, there's a dis-ease and a discomfort, and just really, frankly, an unfamiliarity with how to just relax and be.
Exactly.
It's so foreign. I'm still trying to be at peace with that. Sometimes I really rock it and drop in, and other times I'm like, yeah, I need to be doing, and it's
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
Yeah, and it's at the end of the book, I'd say, hey, this is a practice, and a practice is something that some days we're going to hit it amazingly, right? And we're going to seamlessly transition between both states. And maybe in the morning, we start off as a seeker and step into our hustling and do our most important work. And then we plug into the void and we have one of those days and we hit it. Great. And then the next day is a complete shit show. It's still just practice. And at the end of the day, it's all about finding your sweet spot given
Mhm.
your personal like DNA and what lights you up. But also given the season that you're in, which is something that you and I have talked about a lot. Right now, I'm birthing another book into the world. I'm doing things that I normally don't do. My schedule is completely different. I'm doing a lot of stuff like this. I'm going to be 80% hustling during the next few months. And that's totally okay because I know it is for a season. The problem is if that becomes my status quo and 3 months becomes 3 years, that to me isn't success because I know that there needs to be time for incubation, for restoration, for insight gathering, for all of those beautiful things that literally just can't happen when we're always on the run and always going.
And I don't think we all know that there has to be rest and that there has to be time for insight and that there has to be time for decompression, because I don't think that's not the way most of us were taught, and what
Yeah.
society reinforces, go do, as if we're supposed to be in a summer season where we're, blossoming and harvesting all the time, and that expectation to do that, and different industries that are like really pushing optimal performance all the time, and it's just not sustainable. But
No
I
way.
don't, but I think that there's an unrealistic expectation that it is, and that so many of us have bought into that. That's why there's coffee addiction, that's why there's adrenal fatigue, that's why there's
Sure.
so much stress and anxiety, because what you said is, I know I need downtime and I need time for reflection, and I think we're just like, oh, what? Huh? I need downtime. I'm supposed to reflect on things. I'm supposed to take a pause, and not just on December 31st for 5 minutes, about, well, what are my goals for the new year's in 5 minutes? But I think that this part of seeking is making an entrance into consciousness, into everyday, um, conversations of the need for decompression and the need for downtime and the need for replenishment. It's I think a relatively new conversation, because I
Yes.
was not raised with, hey, take a break, have some downtime, rest. You just finished a big thing, or you had a big year, or you just, finished a project at work or something like that. I really wasn't raised, and I don't know too many people that are, with that awareness of, oh, let's weave in a break and downtime and reflection and play.
Yes.
That's new.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think that's why I love using athletics as a metaphor because we get it in athletics. Like an Olympic athlete only has the Olympics once every 4 years. They cannot sustain their level of performance if the Olympics was 3 times a year, right? Like that just wouldn't work. Like it makes sense to us that sports have off seasons.
Mhm.
Um, and so the best athlete is not the one who performs the best. It's the one who's able to perform and then recover faster than everybody else because they're in a float tank like Steph Curry. And so
Mhm.
it's very important that we recognize that in our work it's the same exact thing. That recovery, work ethic, like it's I don't even use work ethic as a ingredient of success because it's so obvious. Yes, you have to show up. Yes, you're going to be rejected. Yes, you're going to have to do stuff that you don't feel like it. Like I don't even address that. It's just like that's just a ticket into the game. However, what separates two creatives, let's say, is who can recover, who's recovering in a more deep and grounded way, who can head to the mountains for a few days or a week or a season and not work and actually unplug to a point where it's uncomfortable, but then they start getting some creative seeds that would have never come inside of the doing. We've all experienced this, right? We're blocked with our graduate thesis and we're banging our head up against the wall, or there's a problem in our business and we keep trying to push and trying to push and trying to push and nothing happens. We go for a 3 hour hike with the dogs. We're not thinking about work. And then an insight pops up. Oh, wait, maybe I need to reorganize this person here. And then it's amazing.
This
What
is
were we doing out there? We were, you
right.
know?
I think, Tommy, this is this balance too of just understanding that burnout is real, and the
Yeah.
perception that if take I break, I'm going to get behind, or I'm lazy. There's judgments about that, and yet when you pull away from it for a little while and get into a different part of the brain and zoom out from the problem and not
Yeah.
think about it for a while and let things reset, whether it's physically, emotionally, mentally, or energetically,
Yes.
this is where the juice of the seeker comes in, because there is a
Yes.
different mental construct. There's space energetically. There isn't all this frenetic go 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 do that doesn't allow an insight, a creative idea, another path to it. Doesn't allow space for that, or to
Yeah.
question, this isn't working, I wonder why. That's the seeker asks the question,
Yes.
you know do I keep doing this? Is this still working? The seeker asks, do I want? Is this what I want? Am I going in the
Yes.
right direction? Am I getting the feedback from the universe? Am I getting the feedback from my emotional body and my physical body that I'm in alignment with joy and my soul? Or,
Yes.
and then the seeker, I think what has been so valuable for me with the seeker is like, it's the whole process of self inquiry,
Yeah.
to be like, hey, what's going on with me? Whether that's physically, a pain, an injury, emotionally, I'm stressed or I'm not happy. And to allow the seeker to go in there and seek what's underneath that. Am I in the wrong place for too long? Is there something that needs adjustment? And I think that this informs that the right amount of seeking informs the hustler of where to go take action or where to go make a
Exactly.
change. And I think that you know, there's value in that stillness. And that doesn't mean the hustler like is on the bench forever, but I think that they're more energetically equipped to do the job because they've rested. And if the seeker is in alignment with their soul, then
That's it.
they're strategically more equipped to make the right moves at the right times and say no to the wrong thing,
Yes.
with a level of awareness that seems to be the sweet spot.
100%. And I love that because we can we can hustle ourselves into something that today is just like 2 degrees out of alignment.
Mm,
And then next week is like 3 degrees out of alignment. And we just keep going because we never go deep enough into seeking to get a different perspective. And so we get one of the worst places to be, which is that we hustle our way into a life or a business or a reality that we never quite really wanted in the first place. And the reason is we never created that space to ask those questions that you were asking. And so we're not taking intentional, grounded,
mm,
aligned action. We're just taking action. And action for the sake of action, it's what the cult of busyness thrives off in our culture, right? It's like, let's compare my busyness to your busyness and let's see who's going to win. And that to me, and I've, by the way, it's like all of the stuff inside of the book, of course, you don't write a book like this or do any of the stuff that you and I do. It comes from firsthand experience. And I've lived this life where I was with my staff on the East Coast and we're in my office. And I remember specifically because it was so cliche that it's pathetic that there was one of those competition posters on the wall. It was like in the background, and it was like a team like doing a row exercise. And it was like one of those lame quotes. And then, and my staff was like, Tommy, it's tomorrow's Christmas Eve. I don't think that we should open tomorrow. And me just being kind of like
what?
confused about
Huh?
which sounds ridiculous, right? So it's like everything that we're sharing here, I've learned, firsthand. And I know that somebody listening we can all relate to this energy that works. And in the book, I talk about a simple law of diminishing return. It's like,
Mm,
things can work and they can produce ROI and they can be great. Progress in our lives is actually the number one greatest human motivator. It's very, very important for us to have a sense of progress. If we're not having a sense of progress in our lives, it's very easy to sink into apathy, depressive type episodes, all of that stuff, distractions. But if we're making progress in our lives, we tend to feel pretty damn good. But every tick on that curve of law of diminishing returns, it starts to work against us. So much so that there was a study in the book where one person worked 90-hour weeks. So it's like, think about it, 90-hour weeks. That's a heavy ass week, right? And another person worked 20 hours a week. And the person, and you think, oh my God, 50 hours of difference. This person is going to crush it. They had basically the same output.
Wow.
This person was just doing stuff that didn't matter, didn't move the needle, was probably scattered, was probably on Instagram while writing an email, doing all the multitasking. And
Exhausted, no mental focus.
yeah, and got the same exact result and probably didn't see their kids for that whole week. And then the other person, 20 hours a week, intentional, focused, knew what to say no to, knew what to say yes to, and got the same exact result. And that's one of the underpinnings, is that this is not the purpose of doing it. But when you do harness seeking, you often end up performing better while working less than you ever did before. Now, that's not the purpose. It's like, we don't want to be the salesperson who, does a 3-minute meditation so they can close the deal. Like, that attachment isn't, to me, healthy, but it ends up often happening that way because, like you said earlier, when you step into seeking, you ask the right questions, you notice patterns, you zoom out from the insanity of your life, you connect two dots that you would have never connected somewhere else. And then you end up performing better, which is incredible.
Well, and this is where, you have the access in that stillness to see things and access to the quantum field of
Yes.
perspective that provides solution, insight, perspective, inspiration. Inspiration is to bring, inspiritus is to bring spirit in.
Yeah.
And that's where the seeking part of the formula is that, hey, this can inform where to go, when not to go, and that level of discernment. And then with very clear focus, put those 20 hours in.
Yeah.
Or like, okay, for the next 2 hours, this is what I'm going to do. This is where I'm going to go. This is the outcome. And that's where I think the hustling makes total sense, is in focused action.
Yes.
That is like imbalanced. Now, not 90 hours a week of that. And times to see, okay, now let me step back and see how that action is going, so that now I can seek again. Did that yield the results that I want? Are there any refinements that I want to make? And it seems like this nice flow between the feminine and masculine, listening, feeling, inspiration, and then do like very focused, like soul aligned action. And I found that sweet spot, that groove at different times where I'm like,
yes,
oh, I am in a flow here, but it's rare. It's rare, but it's happening more often because I'm like,
yes,
I can feel it a little better, and I'm aware of the habituation sometimes. And also, I also want to speak to, well, the other thing that I've noticed, this has happened honestly for both of us, is as a crow flies right by, is like, warning, yeah, is that hustle, go, do, which for me has been motivated from unclean places, but also clean places where I am on my soul mission.
Absolutely.
I am super passionate. Even though I have found the right path, some of the habituating of going and doing all the time has created an imbalance, even though I'm loving what I'm doing and I'm in alignment with my purpose.
Yes.
Then it's even, I've noticed it's even stickier for me sometimes, because it's harder to pull back when there's clean passion there. But there isn't a great habit of take a time out and pause for self-care, and take a time out when I'm on a roll, and it's harder for me to pause the momentum and say, take a down day, just turn off the computer, go take a walk. I've noticed it's harder for me in those places when I'm in flow and I'm like passionate. And so
Yeah.
what advice do you have there? Because I mean,
You're
adrenals.
not going to like it.
Okay, all right,
Okay.
Tony. I know
No,
you will always be honest with me, brother, and like you're really good at this. So I'm ready. I'm ready. Give me.
you won't like it. I won't like it because I don't like it. But the answer is we tend to and yes, like those states of flow or connected, and it's amazing. And part of us in those states, they're so intoxicating. And the problem with intoxicating states, kind of like, going to the local bar or whatever, is that after 3 or 4 drinks, you can't really be trusted, at your highest capacity.
I don't
You're
know what
hugging the
you're talking
bartender.
about. I don't remember.
You're making these grand declarations. You're buying everyone drinks. But it's the same way with this energy. And yes, I love that you said that when it comes from a clean place, I've done everything just like you in my life to come from a place of alignment. Like that's and it's feeling based, and it's with everything that I do, and it's and like, for example, something like writing, it fuels my soul. That's an activity that fuels my soul. It's so nourishing. But I also have to, and this is the thing that I was going to tell you, when we think about law of diminishing returns, we often don't see the diminishing until it's too late. It's like when it's so obvious. I've had clients tell me this. They're like, um, they resist. Like I tell them, I coach my clients, do a flow tank twice a month, do a massage twice a month, put it on the calendar before the rest of your life gets on there. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. And they'll come to me and they'll say, I finally did it. And we'll notice, hey, you finally did it. And this is after 3 months where you're completely burned out. Like, I love that you did it now, but this should have been preventative the whole time. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been in this situation. You would have been nice and steady. So, anyways, the answer is stop when you're on top. That's the real answer. When you're in a state of flow and expression, whether that's in the micro, your day to day, or more in the macro, it's having the courage to step away when you're at some of the best points of that state, and to start the recovery process before you feel like you need it, or before like you're so tired that you really, really need it. So what does this look like for me as a writer? I've written every day for at least 7 years, minimum 30 minutes a day. And I've written when I'm, throwing up from food poisoning or traveling and the time zones are messed up. It doesn't matter. They're just like, I just do it because it's nourishing to me. But even in my highest states of I could go forever or this is amazing, I will put the laptop down and stop when I still have a little juice left in the tank. And the reason that I do that is because I know that if I keep going, tomorrow's session, I'm going to keep going. Tomorrow, I'm going to have just like 5% a little less enthusiasm because I redlined a little bit too much. So
Mm.
that's the short answer. It's the stop when it's feeling really good, which of course none of us want to do because we just want to keep going. But long term, all of that will add up, and you'll be able to access that state faster. You'll be able to come back into that flow state in a faster way, without paying the consequences of going too far down the line. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, it's like it's that hangover energy hangover, and then you're not going to come with as much creativity. But it's that
Exactly.
discipline, or as Michael
That's
Beckett
it.
calls blissipline,
Yeah.
to like step back from the blackjack table when you're kicking ass, when you're
Exactly.
winning. I'm like, no, I'm on a roll. Whether it's
Yeah.
writing or whatever it is in your life where you're in that flow. Like I'm hearing it, Tommy. Thank you for reminding me to hear that.
Sure. We all
And
need it.
I think that a really good thing for me to hear in this moment is to keep scheduling those things in advance. In the advance, like, and in preparation and during and after busy season, just put those things in instead of waiting until after busy season and it's exhaustion season, and
Exactly.
it's like it's not great to be on fumes with the car. It's not really great. um, and so I love the idea of just being more diligent and scheduling
Yeah.
massage, float tank, like the yin experience. I did yin yoga today, just
Oh, it's the
today. And I
best.
was
It's
like,
the best.
normally on my Tuesdays, I'm like, okay, I got to hustle and, get a mountain
Sure.
in or something like that. And it was like, no, do
So
the
nice.
opposite, do the opposite
Exactly.
and do a yin class and just get into all of the parts of the body that have been
It's the best.
stiff from going and doing and just need more of the exhale. I'm so familiar with the inhale and the going and the doing and scheduling those activities that are yin,
Yes.
like bath and like a stroll, and I have to label it a stroll so that I don't pick a summit.
Not a
It's
sprint.
just,
Yeah. Yeah. No,
yeah,
I
it's
feel
just
yeah.
stroll where I'm just like,
Yeah.
I'm not checking my mileage. I'm not checking the hours or the calories burned or anything
No.
like that. But just to stroll, it has a very different intention and like valuing the unwind.
Yeah. And I asked a group the other day, I said, what's more productive? And there was like 50 people on. And I said, what's more productive? A 2.5 hour focus block of Pomodoros, which is, this thing that we track in terms of focused work, or a long bath followed by some stretching and some yoga and
Hmm.
some candles and meditation. And of course, the answer was it depends. It depends. There are seasons when the focused work will be more productive and that we need to do that. And there's other times when we've already done the work and we need to go into this place. And the reason why it works so well with scheduling is that it doesn't require small doses pay off wonders when you're doing
Hmm.
it consistently. It's when you do this huge launch and then you're in the fetal position and then now you have to spend like the next 3 weeks recovering. That's not the best prescription. Now, I'll be very clear though, you and I probably tend towards the hustling just in our DNA. It's actually one of the reasons I moved out here from New York was like to come to Arizona because it's like the West Coast to me was much more being and nature and space, and that's what I was really craving back then. However, um the seekers, those who like primary space is spent in seeking, they're the ones that need to schedule some real, let's make some progress time, let's
Mhm.
be in that coaching program that's going to hold me accountable, you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
it's knowing what you need the most. And traditionally people that come in to the book who are more hustling based, they're going to need more seeking to find that synergy, not balance, synergy, and then vice versa. The ones who seekers, the ones who, every single, the ones who listen to Abraham Hicks for 4 hours a day, they're they're going to need some time for progress because they have creative desires that often go unexpressed, and sometimes, and we'll probably get into this, sometimes not only unexpressed but can be distracted through these principles, which on the surface look and feel incredibly virtuous and incredibly healthy, and they are. But just like hustling, they can lead us astray and they can actually start to rob us of things like agency and creative things that we want to bring to life. And also just what I call integration, which is the ability to, um, you know, when you've cultivated a sense of alignment and peace and clarity and emotional freedom on the inside, it's like, how can you manifest that out in your outer reality and integrate it in a real way where it lasts, where it becomes a consistent practice that turns into something that hopefully not only helps you but helps other people.
Yeah. This is, yeah, now that I love that we're getting into the shadow side of seeking. And I see this a lot. And as you're talking, I'm feeling like the hustling is more like the fire element
Yeah.
and earth grounded, like like manifesting, and that the seeking is more air element, that
Mm.
spiritual connection, and water, more flow, more fluid, more flexible, maybe this, maybe that. And the real alchemy is when those are brought together
Yes.
and and that you find for the season, for the reason, what is the right alchemy, the ingredients, a little more fire, a little more earth, some water, less air
Sure.
for this thing to manifest. And this is one of the things that I see that people get tripped over. And I want to hear from you too about what are those pitfalls, and the shadow side of seeking is that our feet can be off the ground and we can have this
Yes.
beautiful vision. One of my friends says, oh, I have this vision of this community university, and it has this and this and this, and it combines a university, and it combines community and growing and a farm and business and education system, and and a healing center all in one place. I'm like, wow, amazing, fantastic. What's the first step? And we were on this hike, in Mount
I
Shasta
love that.
for hours, and I'm like, amazing, epic, and it was all beautiful up here in the air element. And he was seeking, which is beautiful. This is where we get inspiration. He was seeking it, and he had told me about this 6 months before, and this was the second time, and now I was hearing even more about it. I'm like, awesome, this sounds wonderful. And I could hear the passion. I could hear the detail of the vision and how it's going to solve so many problems. And I was like, brother, I see this. I feel this. How do we move it out of this?
Yes.
Out of the air, out of the
Yes.
seeking a solution to what is phase one? Is it get land? Is it write a business plan? Is it get investors? Like what needs to happen? Phase one. No,
Exactly.
here's the idea. And he goes back to the idea and the vision. And I think that there can be this resistance to
Yes.
moving it out of the air element into the fire, which is action, and into the earth, which is manifestation, into it being something. And I think we lose a lot of wonderful dreams that never manifest into reality because there's no structure, there's no action, there's just the idea without it paired with inspired action and meaningful, purposeful, intelligent steps to bring it out of this beautiful vision into form.
I love that. And that is so common. And the reason why it's so common is because possibility in almost every case is an amazing feeling. Like you're high on dopamine, you're seeing the vision, you're expanding what's possible, you're aware, like it's incredible. But then you have to bring that down to the ground. And it's like almost like everybody talks about writing a book and has this vision for writing a book, right? Well, you have a vision for writing a book, but then you have to create a proposal. You have to send it to agents who are going to ghost you. You're going to get rejected. You're going to struggle. Editors are going to say it sucks. People are going to give you 1-star reviews. So it's like, can we marry the possibility? Because I think it's so important to do that. Absolutely. It's absolutely crucial. But you and I know people like the example you gave that will spend a decade in possibility, and every few months or every couple of years, it's like a new vision kind of iterated on the old vision. It's like the next one and the next one and the next one, but nothing's actually happening. And then
in that situation, it's been 15 years.
Yeah.
That hike I took with that individual was 15 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Nothing has happened.
Yeah.
Nothing. Zero has happened.
And we've all been there. We've all done that. We've all set the vision to some degree and then, gone to the retreat, went to Sedona, got the clarity about what we had to do. And then 6 months later, someone's like, hey, what happened with that? And you're like, you got to start rambling because you don't know what to say because nothing came to it. And I think it leaves you in, it's a place where the insight shrinks to the potential of the insight just shrinks down. And it's almost like an ember for a fire. Like it was a wildfire of an idea and it had this potential. And then years later or months later, it ends up being this spark that has nothing left and it's done. And that to me is, it's a sad thing because so much goes unexpressed and so much goes unfulfilled because we can't take it from the ether
Yeah.
down to the ground.
And that's every seed needs to be fed, and that takes action, and it's not easy. You and I, like, just book number 4, Tommy. Can I
Oh,
just,
thank
like,
you. Appreciate
right
that.
now, one of the things that a hustler is not afraid of, that I gotta give a shout out to those that are, like, really doing the work here in a
Sure.
healthy way, is like, they're not afraid to fail. They're
No.
not afraid to try. They're not afraid of judgment. And I think this is the thing where a seeker can begin to resist the part of us, of all of us, that has an idea that's perfect and it's manifested here in our
Sure.
mind.
Yeah.
But once you start moving it into the realm of possibility, now here come the obstacles.
Yeah.
Our own doubt, our own fears. It might fail, and yeah, it might. How many book proposal um denials did you rejections have you experienced, if you can even, like?
Yeah, I mean, so in just this idea, which I had spent years kind of cultivating, we sent it out to 19 and we got 17 rejections.
17 rejections.
Not good
And
enough.
what about leap of your life?
Platforms not.
What about
Yeah, that was that was actually even more. So we
right?
set out to like 22, and we had to like finagle our way into one. And here's what they say: the idea is not fresh enough. It's
Right.
not
All
captivating
the things.
enough. Platform's not big enough. We don't think he has what it takes. All great stuff. And by the way, I on this whiteboard behind me, every time I would get one, I would print it out and I would put it up, because when it's aligned with the thing that you want to do, yes, the rejection stings, but it doesn't destroy your ego. It actually, when you're on purpose, it actually keeps you going. Clean energy, though, not like screw
Right.
these people.
I'll
They don't know
show
what they're doing,
you.
because they
Right.
do know what they're doing. They're New York City editors for a
Yeah,
reason.
and it might not be your editor, and that's okay.
That's perfect. Yeah, but I put it up there to continue to take intentional action, to not let a door being closed, not let that rob me of the idea that I actually got from seeking, because this idea came from that world of seeking.
That's the healthy. This is where we're getting into the healthy part of being a hustler, that says, okay, it didn't work. Do we need to change the proposal? Could the idea be refined?
Yeah.
What's another, like, creativity, strategy, resilience. Let me go back and try it again. What could I do
Yes.
differently? And this is the thing, the fire and the passion. That's why fire sits in that, over on
Mm,
that
yeah.
hustler side, is that there is a desire to get back up again, and not let a rejection be the period at the end of the statement. It's like, oh, well, I guess
Exactly.
they rejected it, so I'm not good enough. And so in that process of bringing something out of, when we're seeking, we get the idea for a book, or we get the idea for a business, or we feel inclined to serve in some way. Wow, maybe I'm called to the healing arts or something, or I just feel, I want to study this thing. That up there in the seeking, we're going to meet those doubts and those limitations that are impeding the action and the doing.
Yes.
And that's part of the journey of finding the alchemy between our seeking and our hustling. Is we're going to meet at every step of manifesting a beautiful vision from the divine that we get in that seeking space. We're going to
Yes.
be tested with, am I worthy of this? Can I do it? And
Yes.
that doesn't mean I have all the answers and that I won't need to ask for help and that I won't need to learn some things. I'm going through birthing something right now where I'm just so stretched, Tommy. I'm so
Yeah.
outside of my comfort zone. There's been
Yes.
so many rejections, so much money in the form of what I call life school tuition,
Yes.
which is really just, oh, that was a $5,000 lesson when it comes to working with attorneys or whatever. And I feel like there's this deep power in of really, when we sit still and we receive that insight or that inspiration, to be a fertile ground for that seed, and
Yes.
also to be willing and ready to say, okay, I'm committing to this seed. Okay, divine, higher self, soul, whatever it is, in that seeking realm, that some seed of inspiration comes in, that's because we're capable of figuring it out. Usually, a seed isn't going to come in there if it's not yours. If you don't feed
Yes.
it, it's going to die. That's for sure. And we've all experienced ideas that never got fed, or dreams that never got fed and never got manifest to date. And 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 that's okay. We can pass on some of those, but as life goes on, our internal alignment is going to really want to be in aligned with the truth that we receive from those seeking spaces. That, wow, I'm really called to do this or move here or start this thing. Then becomes the journey. And I've come to navigate that by figuring out, okay, don't freak out if it seems too big, or if it's overwhelming, or if it's scary
Sure.
AF. Just trust. That's going to be in the
Yes.
seat. I'm going to lean into the seeking side, but it's also going to be, I don't need to know what the 5-year plan looks like. What are just the next 2 steps?
Yes.
And Tommy, I can handle it when it's just next 2 steps
Yes.
and next 2 steps. And sometimes I do the easy steps first, or the ones that I'm super excited about. And then inevitably will become that step that I've avoided because I'm afraid of the rejection, or the failure. I've prepared and prepared and prepared, and now I've got to take the big move. And I'm like, really, it's a leap. It's the leap of your life. I love this book.
That's awesome.
And sometimes the next step is a big leap AF, like just a big
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
And that takes courage, and it
does.
takes a support tribe, and it takes humility and faith. And like just taking the next 2 steps, I've manifested things beyond my wildest dreams
Yes. Yes.
by just being diligent with taking the next 2 steps. And if the door closes or slams in my face, that level of trust on the faith side, that is like, not my door, not the right time. Don't freak out. Don't throw a tantrum, maybe a little tantrum. But,
Yeah.
but it's not the right time, or it's not the right door, and it's okay. And that has come from that seeking side of me that isn't hustling in a way that it's like, okay, if I hustled and that door closed, it's not my door, and that it's okay. Where before I would hustle in an unhealthy way and try to pry it open,
Yes.
or
Yeah.
hit my head against it and wonder why it's not opening and why I have a headache.
Yeah. Or like you said, like the door closes and you say, oh, that's it. And it's like that's not for me.
Right.
And you just rob yourself of a future that you can't quite imagine, just because you were so rigid in the way that it was supposed to look, or that you had one shot. I hear this all the time with people. It's like they have the one business idea or the one podcast idea, and like if it doesn't hit this massive level of success, or it doesn't work out the gates, then okay, it's done. And I always have to question, it's like, are you sure that was as purposeful as you said it was? Because like if it's truly coming from a line purposeful place, you're not going to give up after one time. Just as you said, you're going to get the door slammed in your face, and then you're going to pivot, and you're going to find a new door, and then a new door, and then a new door. And by the way, you might get to that 5-year vision, and it may look completely different than what you imagined.
And that's the
How,
secret.
yeah, and it might look better than you imagined.
That's, I think, the value of the seeking is that if a door closes, then I go over to seeking. Why?
Yes.
What is this showing me? What could I do differently? What am I learning from this? And I think that that's the flow of the doing and the being, and
Yes.
listening to what's the feedback that I'm getting from the universe, from this book publisher, from this, potential investor. Like what feedback from this partner, from a family member, what feedback am I getting from the universe? And that goes back to the seeking and self inquiry of like, is there something I need to change here? Is there something
Exactly.
else? what is something that has really, that you've added into your your seeking arsenal of things that has
Yeah.
really helped with your flow? For you, Mr. T, Tommy B.
Okay, well, Taylor, my wife, now wife,
I love her.
she could that we were doing a podcast after we came back from our wedding, and she called me the self-care king, which I was like, that's amazing. I was
You've
like,
come a long way, Tommy.
no, I was like, I'll take that.
Yes.
Um, you know, I have a toolkit, and that's why I encourage every single person to develop your toolkit. Get out of your comfort zone. Try things that you've never done. Go do breath work with you. Go do this thing. Go do all of these different experiences. Get out of your comfort zone. But then have this toolkit that you intuitively know, like at basically any moment, like what's gonna help you most right now. For me, the thing I'm most proud of recently is that I have been able to, when I choose that I'm going to go seeking or I'm going to do self care or any of these things, like I am, like, so when I'm plugged in, I'm plugged in. Let's go. Let's do this. Like game on, right? It's like laser, but with the same amount of energy. And that's what I hope that people can do the same when they practice it. When they seek, they're able to detach with the same vigor as they focused, so to fully let go. So one of my favorite tools, which is not accessible to absolutely everyone, but to me, that's why I love the float tank, because you can't be on Twitter and be floating. Like you just, the physical separation between you and the outside world means that you're there for that hour. And hey, that might be an hour where your mind is running a mile a minute and you're counting down the seconds to leave, and maybe that's what you needed. Or maybe an hour where you have a really deep, um for me, like in a float tank recently, I had a very, what would you call it, reconciliation with mortality. So that's like
Mm.
a very deep thing to experience in a float tank, but that's an example of what you could experience. So either of that spectrum, both of those are going to get you back into your world with a little more perspective. When I leave a float tank, I don't even want to go on social media because my mind is like, I just went to a place that was sacred. I don't want my stimulus to come back into this frantic world. So I have a whole toolkit of stuff. According to Taylor, I'm the self-care king. So I do have a whole toolkit, which, yeah, and you've played a huge role in that, right? Like me coming to you as for spiritual guidance, and doing things like breath work and taking those modalities and those tools and implementing them into my day to day. um, the more that you practice each of these, the more that you're able to avoid the messy middle. And the messy middle is when you're kind of like doing a little bit of work, but like multitasking. So you don't get all the benefits of it. And then when you're doing seeking, you're like doing the meditation with one eye open because you can't wait to get back to to check your email, right? And you miss out on on the benefits of both, right? You don't get the progress from the hustle, and you don't
Yeah.
get the clarity from the seeking because you're so focused on who's going on live on Instagram. So
I love the humor because we both have supported each other with different parts of this equation.
yeah.
And I you remember you came up here after Leap of Your Life, after you had finished that book, and it, we talked about the seasons,
Yeah, that
and
was
just
huge
like,
for me.
okay, it's okay for you to be in a fall or in a winter season. Like, you just birthed all of this. It was a lot of hustle for a lot of months to write, to edit, to publish, to promote, to get it out there. And it's like, exhale, like honor the season. And it can
Yeah,
be uh, awkward. That's why seasons kind of overlap. It's not like one day it's summer and
exactly.
then all of a sudden it's fall. It's like, you have a hot day and then you have a cooler day. And it's like all of a sudden, just kind of over time, it's more fall than it is summer. And so it doesn't have to be this delineation with any of us, but just to allow in that listening, what season am I in with my health? do I need to get off the couch? Do I need
Yeah.
to actually like come out of hibernation and be a bear and kind of move slow and stretch a little bit before I go, many, many miles? And like learning what season you're in right now and what do you need to balance that out to create more alchemy. Because if you're go 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 with the book all the time, it might be like more massages, more downtime. And so
Absolutely.
we're inviting you all listening and watching to kind of check in with what's your natural
Yeah.
season that you tend to lean into, what's your natural element. Maybe you are more fire and manifestation and earthly things, then it might be more fluid, more water, more meditation, more air, more journaling, more introspection time, which might be awkward, uncomfortable, and familiar.
Not might, it will for a little bit.
Yeah.
It will
Hi.
for e
Thank you.
even for us seasoned that we go in and out of it, it's like and it could be longer, but like, when I go into a float tank, even like I'll go this week, those first 10 minutes, if I'm in a hustle season like I am with the book, those first 10 minutes are like, should I have came here? I don't know if I should be
Yeah.
doing this. Like there's all these things. And then it's like,
Yeah.
now I'm in it.
Leave it.
And the better, the more that you do it, the more the faster you kind of drop into it. But then also, like you said, on a macro level, it's not gonna be it's gonna be messy, is basically what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And can you look at the mess and embrace it in a way where it doesn't stop you from the practice, or that you say like something's wrong here, or I shouldn't be doing this, but you actually get to the point where that's released. And then on the other side of that is when you get the real benefits, the long lasting benefits. So I wanted to say that because somebody listening is going to go through it and they're going to say, this doesn't feel good right now, or I want to do something else, or I want to move, or I need to get back to the office, or and I'm saying just hang on another 10 minutes, hang on another few days of your rest and recovery, and watch what happens. And it's just like you said, it's like the vacation that we go on, where the first 3 days it's like we're still in that mode, and then after 3 days it's like, oh wow, I'm not checking my email in the morning. We just had a brunch for 2 hours, and
Let's not schedule anything.
exactly.
Let's not schedule the tour and the thing and the thing and the thing. It's like, let's not do anything. And it's just flow. And it feels really good. I'm loving unscheduled days where
Yes,
there's nothing on the schedule. I wake whenever I want. I do whatever I want. And I love just having unscheduled days. Even if they're my down days, they're not scheduled with a bunch of downtime
exactly.
activities, because it's a
Yes.
mental thing of doing, even if it's okay, go get a massage, then go do this, and then go do that. I'm like, all right, even I need to unschedule some of my
Yeah.
doing. Like I
Yeah.
know I got to schedule it, but I also want those days where there's just no schedule,
Space.
space,
White space. That's
white
that's
space.
a huge part. It's like white space. And hey, that day, and it's funny that you mentioned the leap, because that was actually, I was coming off like what I consider like a 7 year summer. And that's why it hit me so hard. I was like in the fetal position
Whoa,
when I reached out to you, because I was like, I
yeah,
don't know what's going on.
yeah.
But in retrospect, like I was wanting to like, I would wind up at Barnes and Noble and read novels. I was like watching movies that were super artsy that I never watched before. I was like doing all of these things that were so different. And that's why I encourage people, like, look at the things that you're leaning into at any given season. They're going to contain the clues for what season you're in. I needed to be in a season of like, no, you're not going to read another book about business. You're going to read a novel
Yeah.
that's a great story that has no application for what you're going to do tomorrow morning, but is just a great story.
I love that you're saying this. Let it get messy and uncomfortable, and not. And I think just some ease and grace, and not compare yourself. Well, I usually am in the gym for 2 hours, or I'm usually
Yeah.
reading these kinds of books. And it's like if you're pushing away from that, there's a reason, and it's okay. You might need to paint. You might need to
Yeah.
scroll, and there's a different flavor of medicine and alchemy that happens when like the Italian in me that's like, well, just throw it all in, throw all the stuff in. And it's just like that, that sometimes it's just keep it simple. When I was dating this one chef, he's like, sometimes the best recipes are just 3 ingredients. I'm like, that is not possible. Can't, that does not compute. And then I'd have his food and I was like, that really is just those 3 ingredients. I'm like, there's got to be, you got to put more shit in there.
That's so
He's like,
funny.
just these 3. And sometimes just a little bit of something different
Yeah.
can really change the flavor to be really nourishing, whether it's a stroll or a painting or writing poetry. And it's really good to get out of our rut of
Yes.
a rut of doing, even if it has been productive and it's familiar, just to try a different flavor of even relaxation, or a different flavor, work in a
Yes.
different environment, try a different morning routine, and just so that we don't come so rigid in our and allowing it to be watery and fluid and flexible depending on the season, what elements are required at this point, and being able and willing to reach out for a new element and a new ingredient, and still keep it simple. It doesn't have to be super complicated.
I love that chef metaphor, because we need more simplicity in our
I
lives, all
know.
of
I'm
us.
like, no, there's guy like my tomato sauce has like 20 ingredients. He's like, this dressing can have 3 ingredients. And I'm like, that is impossible. So,
Amazing.
Tommy, you are so dear to me, and
Thank you.
I love you dearly.
Me too.
As a teacher, because I've had the privilege of not only your books, and I just love just listening to those on that when they're on Audible, so that I can listen to those. And what I'm really excited for everybody to go and get is the Hustlers and Seekers book on pre-order, because you're giving a whole bunch of goodies with it, right? If
Yeah,
you
no,
order
yeah,
pre-order.
absolutely. Yeah, we're giving away a course called the 712 formula, which is basically I'm helping people take intentional action. So the whole course was built around a formula. When I work with entrepreneurs who were spending way too much time at the office, and I said, can we get a week's worth of results in just 5 hours?
Mm,
And it's just five most intentional hours of your life, because not everyone has the full blown time to spend 30 hours on their business. Maybe you're a single mom with 2 kids and you have 5 hours. Can we make those 5 hours? You can build something powerful in 5 hours. You can create something that you're proud of. So I'm giving away that 7 to 12 formula. We're doing a virtual book launch seminar where we're going to do live coaching and training. There's also going to be a Q&A where anybody's going to be able to ask a question and be coached, and also giving away some audio samples, some audio chapters from the book, and 2 bonus chapters that didn't make the book. But so you can get that all at hustlersandseekers.com.
oh, go get that. We will have that in the show notes. And I'm
Thank
super
you.
excited to scoop up all those free gifts. Go get all of those free gifts, everybody, because one of the things that you're gonna love about Tommy's coaching and his writing is that it's humorous, and it's also honest. And sometimes we need to hear that. Sometimes we need to be held accountable. We need to be invited out of playing small, or an old habit, or a limited way of thinking. And Tommy, you've been a real ally for me, for sure, in that place to help with my alchemy, and keep my feet on the ground, and my heart here manifesting things in the 3D, and also to keep
Yes.
expanding my spiritual potential. And you weave this really well, this alchemy really well. And I've
Thank you.
watched you over the years, really just profound. And you devour personal development in information. You live it, you refine it, and then you alchemize it, and then you share it, with your books, with your programs. And your podcast is amazing as well.
Thank you.
um, and I've been on your podcast a couple times.
At least twice. At least it might be
Yeah,
3, but we know for at least
yeah,
twice.
yeah.
Incredible conversations, which we'll link up in the notes, of course. But it's been I mean, the first one is one of my most listened to of all time.
Oh,
It's like you, Dispenza, and like Robin Sharma or something. So, anyways, just
wow.
wanted to let you know.
Oh yeah, those are my babes. We just hang together. We do float
Good
spot,
company. Good
and then we
company.
just, yeah. That is to be just included in those are 2 of my all-time icons. And yes, so it's Resist Average Academy is the name of the podcast, And also you were on my podcast about doing the inner work, which was
Yeah.
a great episode. That was way
So
back,
fun.
episode 3. So we'll
Yes.
include that in the show notes. You've got to go check out our other podcast because you dropped some really like powerful insights on that podcast as well. And where can people find your website and your Instagram?
Yeah, Instagram at Tommy_resist_average, and then resistaverageacademy.com or hustlersandseekers.com. They're kind of both connected right now, but those are the best places. I'd love to connect. Anybody who listens to the show are my people, are my tribe. So I'd
Right.
love to connect with you.
We have same tribe that are
Yeah, they just
willing to do the work.
I think
Willing
we
to do the
attract
work.
actually people who are in like really good at the hustling and the seeking. It's like
Yeah.
we are able to attract those type of people who want both and able to live
Yes.
both. So it's such an honor and such a pleasure.
Oh, always, always. And for everybody, I have a free gift. Go check it out. And that is you're gonna find that in the show notes, because we're talking about balancing kind of the feminine and masculine. We're gonna do a free guided visualization to balance the feminine and masculine so that that is more integrated in the way you live, feeling, listening, and creating from and then doing an action and integrity, balancing the feminine and masculine, and a discount on the feminine and masculine course. So I am so excited about Hustlers and Seekers. Thank you, Tommy. I can't wait to tune in and scoop up all those free gifts. And thank you for doing your work. You are just a dear friend and a pillar of light in this community that is bringing a lot of truth, a lot of insight, and a lot of resources in many forms. Your coaching, your podcast, your books, and your posts are just always medicine for me. So thank you, Tony. I love you so much.
So deeply appreciated. Right back to you. It's been incredible to be on this journey with you. And yeah, I feel a kingship and a kindred spirit with you. And so I know there's more to come on this. So anybody who listens to this podcast, you're in the best hands possible.
Oh,
And I can't wait to continue to see all of you grow, and of course for us to grow together. So thank you, Anahata.
yes, yes, I love it, and and your wife too, Taylor Stone, is just like a dear, dear sister, and now your wife. The two of you came on a retreat together. Well, I guess it was 5
Yes.
6 years ago, at least that now.
Wow. Yeah. Yes.
It's been just an incredible journey since then.
And we did breath work for the first time. Wait, I'd done breath work with you, I think. Had I done it
Before
before?
that, maybe. I
Yeah,
don't
but
know.
then we did it with that was like early on in our relationship, and it was just like to do that and to hold that space. I mean, just so powerful. So you've been like an integral part of so much of our growth, like as a relationship, as a union. Like I can think of so many intersections where you were a part of that. So it's so exciting.
It's the beginning. It's just the beginning. I know more magic is ahead. Thank you so much, Tommy. And I love your podcast. I've always loved that, resist average. And so do that. Resist average. And through this dance of balancing and alchemizing, hustling and seeking. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. If you loved this episode, if you've got some juicy pearl, please share it, subscribe so that you can always know the next episode that's coming up. And give us a rave review and let us know what pearl you really took away from this podcast. Thank you. We love you. Have an incredible day. Peace out.